Wise listeners are confident speakers. Hey everyone, Tom Harrison here with Pro90D. Great to be with you again. Thanks for joining me for another smooth speech snippet, another in the listening series, all about becoming a more effective listener so that you become a more effective speaker, a more effective communicator. So this topic I'm speaking to today is about wise listening. Wise listening. Another way to put it would be to listen to voices of wisdom. Imagine that for a moment. Think for yourself, what might that mean? If I was to listen more to voices of wisdom, voices of wisdom. What does that mean for you? Just think about it for yourself. What bubbles up for you? Does anything? When you think of voices of wisdom. And let me give you another hint. There are inner voices of wisdom within ourselves, and there are outer voices of wisdom. Voices of wisdom all around us, in any given moment, in any given environment. Did that help? Is anything coming up for you? What comes up for me when I think of voices of wisdom? And that itself you can think of as an acronym. VOW, voices of wisdom. Vow, like promise. So here's the way I think of it, and this helps me remember it, and this will also dig in to what I mean by voices of wisdom and how it helps us be more confident in our speaking and in our lives. So this vow for me is to pay more attention when I speak, and really as often as possible in my life, to pay more attention to the voices of wisdom within me and outside of me. The voices of within me is the wise self-talk, right? We all know it, right? Doesn't it happen all the time? Don't you naturally get lots of wise self-talk like, oh, I respect myself so much. I so respect you. Tom, I so respect you. Fill in the blank. I so respect you. I love you. I care for you. You're so good at what you do. You're such an effective communicator. You always say what you want to say. I'm always communicating effectively. I'm a smooth, confident speaker. I speak clearly, calmly, confidently, saying what I want to say when I want to say it, the way I want to say it. All voices of wisdom, right? All of these phrases that I'm speaking come from a place of wisdom. It's empowering, right? I think that's a really easy way to think of wisdom. Wisdom, essentially, are words, phrases, often affirmations in one form or another, that empower us. Empower us. So it's easy, right? We just listen to those words of wisdom that are always coming to us. That self-talk that's always so wise. Oh, so that's not how it works for you? It's not how it works for me either. I'll just be honest. I wish, just words of wisdom were coming constantly, automatically. Wouldn't that be beautiful in our self-talk? Oh my God, everything would be different in the world, I think. I think it'd be a much better world. Imagine if all of us had this beautiful, wise self-talk constantly uplifting us, upleveling us, empowering us to be our best. This would be a much better world. So it's a great reason, making it a better world, starting with ourselves, it's a great reason for us to learn how to find, first of all, those voices of wisdom that do exist within us, because I know for many of us, I know it's true for me. I'm a coach. I've worked with hundreds of people. It's true for every single one of them. It's true for anyone that I've reached this subject about, right? Anyone I've talked to the extent where I find out kind of what's going on for them. So what are you struggling with, right? Almost always people are struggling with internal self-talk on some level, no matter what else is going on. Things like, for example, so stupid. Oh, how could I have been so dumb? I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I said that. I can't believe I can't say that. How did I get stuck? Oh, I knew I was going to get stuck. Why did I even try to speak? I'm such an ineffective speaker. I just can't do this. I'm not sufficient. I'm not worthy, etc., etc. We could go on and on and on, right? And isn't that what often happens? The self-talk just goes on and on and on. And for most of us, far too often, that self-talk would not be categorized, not labeled as wise. It's not wisdom. These are not voices of wisdom. So what do we do about that? Where are the voices of wisdom? They're there. Sometimes we need to shift our attention. Well, almost always we need to shift our attention. But we need to give ourselves something to shift that attention to that is going to counteract, that is going to replace these voices that diminish us, that are certainly unwise, right? Certainly unkind. The voices of disrespect, the voices of meanness, voices of doubt, voices of fear that, hey, sometimes fear can be very helpful and empowering, right? If it's the kind of fear that allows us and enables, us to jump out of the way. If we're, for example, maybe walking across the street and texting and we weren't paying attention and we're about to get hit by a car, when that fear comes up and gets us to jump quickly out of the way, that's wise, but that's kind of embedded into us, right? That's an automatic reaction. I'm talking about the kind of wisdom we need to cultivate, which really does empower us. And if it's not coming naturally, we really want to begin practices so that it does become natural ultimately, right? This is what affirmations essentially all about. Affirming what we want, not what we don't want that seems to affirm itself, right? The negativity affirms itself. And this is what makes it so challenging for us. But it's so crucial. Because ask yourself this: how confident is your speech? How confident can it be if so often the voices you're listening to, whether you intend to listen to them or not, whether you want to be listening to them or not, this internal self-talk isn't easy to just turn off, right? That doesn't really work, right? And usually, if we start noticing this self-talk and it's upsetting us, it puts us in a downward spiral. So what I'm asking you to do is, when you become aware of this negative self-talk, as soon as possible, and oftentimes the problem is, when we're in the middle of it, of course we're aware because we're in it, but we can't change it because we're in it, right? Because we're believing it, because we're believing I'm an idiot, because we're believing I can't get my point across, because we're believing I'm a horrible speaker, whatever it is. We're so in the belief of that self-talk that in the moment, we're just spiraling down. We're just diminishing ourselves. Voices that lack wisdom. So as soon as we can, as soon as we realize that we were in that negative spiral, that we were saying these negative things to ourselves, that we were making these judgments, even if we still believe it, as soon as we become aware of the awareness, as soon as we get it that, oh, there I go again, I was doing that again. And ideally we get to the point, ultimately we get to the point where, ooh, here I am doing it again. Here I am judging myself. Here I am saying these things about myself. Ooh, I don't want to be doing that. I don't want to believe that. I'm going to change my attention, right? So as soon as possible, we change our attention to an affirmation that actually empowers us. Even if we don't fully believe in it at the moment, we need something to get us moving in the direction of empowerment, a direction that will actually begin to give us more confidence. Because we simply will not have the kind of confidence we want and really need, especially in a high pressure speaking situation, if we're just listening to these voices that diminish us. We need to be listening to voices of wisdom. So one way, there's much more that we could say about this. I mean, for many of us, we need to really have a solid practice, and we need accountability, and we need the kind of things that a coach or a guide would bring us. But you can do this on your own if you're able to do the work consistently, regularly, frequently, right? To keep affirming yourself and build the belief systems that will make you more confident. Build the belief systems that change these negative judgments into positive, affirming, empowering affirmations. Now, the Pro-90D system is laced with affirmative language. The system itself is coming from an affirmative standpoint, right? Everything we do in the Pro-90D smooth speech system is about affirming your smooth speech and everything that leads to that, and not giving bandwidth, right? Not shining light on the negative things that are there. We want to expose you to as much light as possible to help you out of the darkness as quickly and as lastingly, is that a word? As permanently as possible. So if this is a real issue for you and you know you need to change these thought processes, you know you need to begin listening to voices of wisdom because you're not hearing a lot of wisdom inside and you're having a hard time shifting that attention, really consider joining Pro-90D. Especially if you really, really need confidence in your speech. If it's really important for your job, for your life. Because here's the thing, if it's not important to you, then you're not going to take it seriously enough. You're not going to make the changes. If you really are ready and need to make the changes, check out Pro-90D. And by the way, in Pro-90D, you will hear many voices of wisdom. Right? I just kind of alluded to it, talking about the affirmations that are laced throughout. They just kind of run throughout the entire system. It's beautiful. The affirmations that you will be doing yourself as part of your practice, but perhaps even more importantly, the affirming language, the voices of wisdom you will get from the Pro-90D community, and of course, from Michael Williams himself. And that is so invaluable. And that brings me to this other aspect, this other realm of voices of wisdom, which is all of the voices outside of us, right? There's all the self-talk, right? And that just keeps coming. And I hope it's clear for you now that we've got to change that. We can't expect just all of a sudden for things to change. Now, hey, for many of us, what happens is kind of on a good day, the self-talk can be empowering. Or maybe we just don't even notice the self-talk, but we're feeling good. And this is partly why we're feeling good and why we feel more confident, because we're not noticing the self-talk so much, which seems to be always negative. Because for whatever reason, and there's all kinds of circumstances it could relate to, right? Something good happened in your life or in somebody's life who you're connected with. And so you feel better. Maybe you just got better sleep, whatever it is. Maybe you just got through an effective communication and so you feel good. That's great. And use that as a lever too. Remember those times. And for most of us, what happens is there's this roller coaster, right? It's like mood swings. And we can't necessarily control them. And we have to look back at our own experience and ask ourselves, how was it when I was in that high pressure situation, that high pressure speaking situation, right? So if the struggle has been that I just haven't had confidence when I really needed it too often, this is what we're really pointing to, right? We need to be able in the moment, whenever we need that confidence. And we want it available to us at any time, right? But especially when it's most important to us, we want that confidence, we need that confidence, and we want to be immersed in voices of wisdom. And so, like I said, the voices of wisdom that you'll find in the Pronoun ED community, from Michael Williams and all the wonderful people in the community who are getting so much from the Pronoun ED system, including the amazing alumni, the people who have gone through the system and have had such incredibly impactful, empowering results. All of those voices of wisdom are powerful, but there's also all those voices of wisdom outside of you right now. Whatever you're doing in your life now, when I say right now, I mean just kind of in your life on a given day. Are you watching TV? Do you watch much TV? If so, ask yourself, how much wisdom, how much of the voices that are coming at me when I watch TV, when I watch social media, or dig into social media, whatever you're listening to, whatever you're connecting with, whatever you're engaging with, ask yourself, how much of that could I consider truly voices of wisdom? Hey, the fact is, much of social media is not even close to voices of wisdom. So much of social media is demeaning, it's degrading, it's diminishing. And even if it's not directed to us, that can be even worse, right? If we just join in on putting down someone else, if we make some sarcastic comment or some snide comment, or if we just follow it or just allow ourselves to be sucked into it. Even real things that are happening, like the news channel, right? How often do you go to the news channel to get your wisdom quote for the day? I don't know anybody who does that. I mean, what happens when we go to the news channel? We get lots of what? Bad news. And what does that do for us? Hey, even if we want to be aware and kind of know what's going on, fine. But the more we allow ourselves to be pulled into this negative information, even if it's really happening, even if it's true, it doesn't up-level us. It doesn't empower us. It's not wisdom. It's information. And we need to be very careful about all the information coming at us these days and do our best to put our attention on the voices of wisdom and let all the other stuff go as much as possible, right? If you really need to know some news, tap into it as minimally as possible is my recommendation, and really let the voices of wisdom wash over you, right? Beautiful, beautiful. And seek it out. Seek it out. See where you can put your attention to voices of wisdom. Hey, social media, it can be difficult. I would recommend that in social media that you really consider, if you're not doing this already, finding places where there's meaningful conversations, right? Where it's something that truly will empower you. Look for the voices of wisdom. Listen for the voices of wisdom. They're out there. They can be very difficult to find with all the chatter, with all the nonsense, with all the silliness. And hey, it's totally fine if you're listening to something that maybe you can't pinpoint the voices of wisdom, but it does, but you feel that it uplifts you, that it's joyful to you. Hey, if that's the case, if you're feeling joy and you're feeling empowerment and it just makes you feel better, then there's wisdom embedded in that, even if you can't pinpoint, right, the voice of respect or the voice of compassion or the voice of love or the voice of empowerment, whatever. If it's uplifting you, then there's wisdom within it, embedded in it. And it will help the more you can kind of get a grasp on, what is it about this that empowers me? What is it about this that I could consider a voice or voices of wisdom? That will help us, because the more we can train ourselves to put our attention where the wisdom is, the more wise and more confident we will become in our lives and in our communication in our speech. And that's going to carry over to all of our conversations. We're going to find ourselves in more meaningful, truly more wise conversations. We're going to find ourselves tapping into our own wisdom more in every communication, even if it's something that not even super interesting to you, but you have to do it for work, for example. Now, I hope your work is interesting to you, but it's, not every communication is, exactly what we'd love to be talking about in the moment, and yet we need to for our work. Imagine bringing wisdom into that. Imagine coming into a job interview after having listened to voices of wisdom and just lifting yourself up and affirming yourself, even if the self-talk, the negative self-talk is coming in your head as you're walking in the door to the interview. Imagine yourself catching it and be like, I'm going to shift my attention to voices of wisdom, even if I need to speak them into existence right now. Oh, there's that voice that's telling me I'm dumb, that I won't pass this interview, that I'm not going to speak effectively. Oh, I am an effective speaker. This interview, I'm going to rock this thing. I am wise, and I'm going to bring my wisdom into this conversation, into this interview. I'm going to be at my best. I'm going to take my time. I'm going to be present. I'm going to be truly a voice of wisdom in this interview. There's so many things you could say, right? Play with this yourself. Experiment with this yourself. Find within yourself your voices of wisdom and let that be something that goes on and on and on and on, where you just can keep coming up with endless voices of wisdom within yourself and all around you. And I hope you can already realize, I hope you can already feel how much that will impact your life. And many of you may already be doing this on some level, perhaps on a fairly deep level, but I hope this has brought even more attention to the importance of listening to the voices of wisdom that are always there. Sometimes we have to look hard. That's okay. It's worth the search. And it's absolutely worth the affirmation if it's not coming naturally. And it's absolutely worth the practice to make those affirmations the natural state of our self-talk and our communication with others. Here's to being a wise listener so that you become a more and more confident and effective speaker. And I hope to see you in the Pro90D community immersed in the voices of wisdom. Take care. See you along the trail. Keep listening because your voice matters.